So, welcome back to the show, everybody. So, during the break, we were talking about how Trump. There are areas where he absolutely ran away with the election. Like he won. For those of you that don't know, 100% of the vote of people who murdered their wife and voted for Trump on their dead wife's behalf while the body was still missing. Yeah. Like that coveted demographic. Trump won that, hands down, not even close. I mean, I don't know how you work on the get out the vote next time, Dems, to try and compete. But I mean, honestly, and let's go back to Maggie Haberman's article, because there's something in here that I wanted to point out that it was pretty amazing. Frustrated by the lack of coverage, he has expressed his anger in news releases that still refer to him as the 45th president of the United States. That's on his website. I went and looked for this quote that she's about to give on his site, and I can't find it. So I think he took it down because it was embarrassing. Next time I'm in the White House, there will be no more dinners at his request with Mark Zuckerberg and his wife. He said,
I don't understand that sentence.
I don't either. It will be all business. Is what he said.
There'll be no more dinners at his request?
Well, that's because he didn't invite them. Trump always needs you to know that he didn't want these. He had dinner with these people, but they asked him. He would never ask them, right? So Mark Zuckerberg, a person who is the closest living thing to Brent Spiner doing cosplay at one of his own conventions that exists in the world. There's a data reference for those of you that don't watch Star Trek and TNG. He needs you to know. He needs you to know that Mark Zuckerberg, who's a real billionaire, like a massive billionaire,
right,
a genuine billionaire. Trump needs you to know that a real billionaire had to come and kiss his ring and say, "I want to have dinner with you. I need to have dinner with you." And it had nothing. By the way, he doesn't realize though that those dinners at the White House were with the person who was the president of the United States. And unless Donald Trump was magically back in the White House, which he will never be, just for the record, just clear that up. Let's just move on from that idea and enjoy every time it's said for the absolute horrific joke that it is. That the only reason Mark Zuckerberg and his wife were meeting with a guy like Donald Trump was because he inhabits the White House and had his hands on the levers of power. That's the only reason. The only valid reason why they would even bother to do that. It certainly isn't for his charitable donations. It isn't for, Zuckerberg and his wife doing, their philanthropic endeavors. Like, you know what we really need, honey? You know what, while we're humaning, what we really need is a giant painting of Donald Trump that makes him look better than he actually looks.
Beep, boop, boop.
Beep, boop, beep, boop, boop, cree, cree, cree. I'm completely convinced that Mark Zuckerberg in private speaks in fax tone. As soon as he turns a corner away from normal humans, it's scream like an old AOL dial-up. Last week, he shut down his blog after hearing from friends that the site was getting little traffic and making him look small and irrelevant. Well, according to a person familiar with his thinking. Well, his thinking was, I don't want to look small and irrelevant. Not that, oh, I look small and irrelevant, which he does. It was, I have to say, as bad as Fwank was, Michael Lindell's failed launch of a website, his new social media platform, which does not exist. It is simply like a YouTube page for himself.
Yeah.
There is no social media there. It was worse. Like Trump's page is just random. It's like just basically a WordPress update page. It's amazing. It's with a shop, of course, and a bouncing and a bouncing. Donate $100 and make it monthly, whether you know that you've already clicked to make it monthly or not.
Right.
Some of his aides are not eager to engage with him on his conspiracy theories and would like to see him press a forward-looking agenda that would help Republicans in 2022. Yeah, a lot of us would have liked to have seen him take the coronavirus pandemic last year very seriously as it broke.
That'd have been something.
That would have been something, but it wasn't going to happen, and neither is this. So, the only way this happens is if magically Donald Trump suddenly is someone else. Like if Heaven Can Wait happens and the actual Warren Beatty, we wish him all love and safety, were to pass away and an angel went, "You're not done, Warren," and he puts him back in somebody's body, and he's like the first of three where he's clamoring to get out. The first one, would be in Donald Trump's body, where he'd go, "Okay, at least I can do some good. I'll come out and say, I totally lost the election, and you know what? Who needs a Facebook page? I'm taking up fishing. I am going to start my own charity, and I'm going to build houses, and I apologize to Jimmy Carter." And then moves on to the next body, whoever that is, Matt Gaetz. Well, he just goes, "Cuff me." Some of his aides are not eager to engage with him on his conspiracy theories and would like to see him press forward agenda to help Republicans join 2022. People in his circle joke that the most senior advisor to the former leader of the free world is Christina Bobb, a correspondent with the far-right, eternally pro-Trump One America news network, whom he consults regularly for information on the Arizona election audit. So he watches her show nonstop and
he's
calls
invested
her
in all that too.
Yes,
well, I guess he would have to be.
Yeah, that's all he talks about apparently.
Yeah.
He's going to bring it up tonight. I'm just going to call it. There's no way he doesn't. And not because he can't help himself and he's got to complain and he's a whiner, which he is, but because, again, he has no relevance unless he proves to a certain group of people that the election was stolen. If he lost fair and square, he's a loser. If he cheats to win, it still counts. Because the thing you have to remember about Donald John Trump is that he believes that if you go into court with the evidence on your side and you win, so what? You're not special. Anybody can win when the evidence is on their side. Trump thinks he's special when the evidence isn't on his side and he wins anyways. That's how he thinks that's how he knows he's amazing. That's how that's how he's like built up his opinion of himself over the years. His ego is largely based on the fact that he has managed to scam and sidestep all this stuff his whole life. And it's like I said, it's largely because they're afraid to pull the thread in New York and the real estate market. That will fall apart, by the way. One of the things about the pandemic that's changing New York real estate in a lot of ways is that even though there's a lag right now in people going back to office space in New York, and the primary thing about big cities is you gather there to do business. And what we learned in COVID is a lot of businesses that can do it can do it spread out all over the place. You can live in Wyoming as long as you got a good Zoom hookup. And there are a lot of people who are interested in doing that, especially the heads of the company. The bigger, you used to go to the tower because the boss and all those guys met in the big building, and then all the staff worked below them and all that kind of stuff. Well, now a Montana ranch with 19 Putin-sized Zoom screens is a much better way to meet with your staff for a lot of these people who aren't people anyways. And it makes it easier to fire and get rid of. You're never there when somebody goes postal. So the stiff arming of the workforce is going to continue. And so it's very, New York is predicated on that. Those apartments, and what gives them value is the fact that they're close to the media center of the world, the Wall Street and those businesses. And that will come back, by the way. That's not going to stay. We're not going to stay in Zoom world forever. There will be a lag back to it, but people will need to meet face to face. Business will happen faster when you meet face to face. There's no lag time on a person who's sitting at the desk next to you, or the video going down. So that will always be a part of it, but it's gonna be a slow thing to get back. Well, the people who own those giant buildings, who are like Donald Trump, who've been layering money and hiding it in the Caymans and hiding tax revenue and losses and all that stuff, they're easier to go after when those buildings are half empty. It's really hard to go after when we're going to upend this entire building and everybody there is going to have to sign a new contract with a new leaseholder, maybe, and maybe they'll leave and we'll lose this business. And they gave deals to their friends, so maybe they're criminals. We got to look into everybody on every floor, like Trump had the Russians running prostitution and drugs and gambling out of the 22nd floor, I think it was, at Trump Tower. All that stuff was a Gordian knot. Well, a lot of the leftover of both Trump losing office and leaving New York and the fact that there's the ancillary effects of COVID, and how business is going to rebound in New York City, the crossroads of the world, is going to give them a wedge point. And maybe even people like me. Don't forget, you can super chat $6.66 to help me buy 666 Fifth Avenue. I only need a billion more people to help me. So, hey, there's 7 on the planet. We are mega worldwide. We're all over the place. If I could get all 7 billion people to just give me $1, then I could do it. And then the stuff that I would do with that building would irritate the Trumps and Kushners of the world forever and ever and ever. Especially where I give Jimmy Carter and Rosalind their own floor, and I turn it into the second Jimmy Carter second Manhattan Presidential Library and Building School, where we train engineers and all of them, and they all pay for their work by designing houses and buildings for low-cost housing and affordable housing across the country. So we always have more real estate available than we have homeless people. I'm just saying that would be cool. I would do that in a heartbeat. So think about becoming a patron. Patreon.com/HalSparks. We're growing like crazy, but we're nowhere near the Ben Shapiro's, the Jordan Petersons, the Steven Crowders of the world, because we're the little show that could, and you can help out. Every little bit helps. We'll be back right after this.